friend, Harvey. I'm thrilled to see everyone. Good afternoon. I see a lot of alumni, some former deans, lots of folks who knew and loved Harvey and family. I'm thrilled that you're here. My name is Colleen Toomey. I'm the chair of graphic communication, where Harvey spent 30 years curating, cultivating, creating this amazing department that stands at the top notch in all of the country, accredited. And I'll probably just ramble a little bit, but it's just really amazing that we're here today. But of course, we come to celebrate and express our deep sorrow to the family and Barbara about this great loss that we have. We are here to share memories, to connect. There were some memories I saw on the website, the Everlove website, that kind of struck me as pretty poignant. I loved reading Brian Kennelly's memory of Harvey. He said that Harvey always spoke glowingly of his colleagues, and that is absolutely true. Harvey worked very hard to promote his people, to achieve their utmost potential, because as they did, they had positive impacts on students. And student success was absolutely the most important thing for Harvey in the graphic communication department. Harvey helped shape student careers. He curated the curriculum to be absolutely top of field. He endowed scholarships and provided access and open doors for students and created thousands and thousands of connections for our grads. He was truly an inspiration. Another memory I enjoyed reading was from Bob Harris, an alum who has had an amazing career. Here you are, Bob. He said that Harvey was the sole reason that he got his degree in graphic communication at Cal Poly. Harvey saw the potential in students and has since created a set of alumni that is equally inspiring. And Bob, you've had an amazing career. You're here with your colleagues Cheryl and Roy from LaLue, an amazing company, and in true Harvey fashion, he's created alumni that give back. You hire our students, you mentor our students, you give to the department. It's just incredible. And many of our alumni are in the same boat. But a story that you may or may not know about Bob, if you connect with him, is that he may or may not have designed and printed his own Cal Poly diploma to prove to his parents that he graduated from Cal Poly due to an interesting time warp with his senior project. And when the real diploma ended up coming to his home, it offered for awkward conversation, but that's such a great story. And as Roy says, we may learn how to counterfeit, but we never do it in graphic communication. So many of you alum, again, are here to give back to GRC, and you're here to give back to honor the memory of Harvey because you felt inspired, welcomed, and included in our department. You were taught by fantastic faculty, supported by amazing staff, using really cool technology, and you entered the workforce truly ready day one. That's an incredible lasting impact of Dr. Harvey R. Levenson. Harvey used to say that a degree in GRC is a golden ticket. It's the lottery ticket. And as students graduated, they won that ticket. And if our grad placement rate is any indication, he was absolutely right. Today, we celebrate a life well lived and a legacy that will continue through every student he mentored, every colleague he inspired, and every life he touched. Harvey's greatest academic lesson could be paraphrased as this: success is measured by not what we achieve, but by what we help others accomplish. Always helping behind the scenes, as Harvey often said, he continued to support his department, his students, faculty, and college all throughout his retirement. He regularly quoted in the trade journals how proud he was of Cal Poly GRC and how it continues to be the top-notch program in the country, nominating his former grads for numerous awards, publicly praising faculty research, and continuing making connections for anyone. That was Harvey's mojo, making connections. But Harvey was much more than an academic and an industry stalwart. He was a husband, father, brother, grandfather, friend, and colleague. And I would love to invite Mark up to share some personal memories.
So I'd like to begin by thanking the Cal Poly leadership, President Armstrong and Dean Murphy. Thank you so much for all of your support. To the GRC department, each one of you, thank you so much. And a special thank you to Colleen and to Michelle for reaching out to not only put on this memorial event, but to also creating the memorial website that we have now. It's wonderful to see all of you, friends, family, and colleagues. So thank you for making the trip, and to those to you who are tuning in. My father would have loved to have seen all of you here, all in one place. Cal Poly and the Graphic Communication Department and the industry are filled with talented people. He was so proud to be able to know you, work with you, and to be a part of this community. In 1982, we were in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Dad saw the open GRC position in a Chronicle of Higher Education ad, decided to give it a shot, mailed in his CV, and it all worked out. Our family has fond memories of Cal Poly. We arrived on campus in 1983, attended Poly Royals, open houses, and pretty much grew up on campus. I even learned how to swim at the pool down there by the stadium. Also, my first class, GRC 101, was attached to this building. It's a large auditorium, probably seats 100 to 200 students. I remember the first day of class, I walked in the door with some football buddies, and we were starting to head towards kind of the middle of the back of the seating. And then I hear the professor call my name, Mr. Levenson, pointing front and center. And when the professor is your father and also funding your weekly per diem, you can't say no. Growing up, I can't recall the single time he missed one of my or my brother's sporting events, whether it was a home game or away. He always made time and he always showed up. Beyond being a wonderful father, he was our role model, our mentor, our guidance counselor, and our best friend. His extended family was very important to him, and he continually added to what he defined as family with his open attitude and welcoming attitude, as well as his mentorship. What a career he had. His many achievements and awards do not adequately represent the amount of time that he spent on his profession. Building relationships and expanding the knowledge he was able to communicate to others. Cal Poly's Learn by Doing philosophy resonated with him on campus, in industry, and at home. He loved every bit of his work and always put in the time and effort to reach his goals. The results were recognized by his peers and earned him many honors over the years. It's just a half a page. We're all going to miss my dad dearly and deeply. Our family is truly grateful for all of your friendship, support, and kindness. We look forward to celebrating his life here with you today and staying in touch in the days ahead. So thank you all again from our family.
This is Harvey, and the first time I saw this picture was about a week and a half ago. My name is Monty Levenson. I'm Harvey's younger brother. And first and foremost, I want to thank Colleen and Michelle at the Graphics Communication Department for putting on this wonderful celebration of life devoted to my brother. Given his 30-year tenureship, why am I not surprised? As chairperson of the department, many of you know Harvey as a very accomplished educator, mentor, and teacher. The tribute that poured in after his passing by university and industry colleagues pointed to Harvey as a quintessential teacher, mentor, and a counselor, devoting his life to the personal growth and thereby the success of the students under his tutelage. And I know this as a fact because I was Harvey's first student. And I was his most devoted student, and it was a lifelong endeavor. I know how to get the most out of a 4-credit course. Harvey was he was a lover and collector of books. But I suspect what defines the essence of his character and the arc of his life, despite his expertise in the printing technology, didn't come off a printed page. It came from a direct line of transmission that Harvey channeled. And this direct line was from our maternal grandparents, Adolph, Unita, Marcus, who in around 1905, immigrated to America from the shtetls of Romania and the Ukraine. But that's a whole other story, which I'm not here to tell. But I just want to mention that because it was so embodied in who Harvey and our whole family, Harvey is and the whole family are. From the day one, Harvey watched my back. He tolerated my intransient, rebellious nature. He set me straight when I was bent out of shape and when I needed it. Throughout our lives, Harvey nurtured, he cared, and he loved me, even when I didn't deserve it. As we grew up, became adults, married, raised families, and began to round the north turn, heading into the home stretch, he showed me tremendous respect and forbearance. He never held on to the past, but moved forward, me in tow, usually behind, while in his own unique parlance, urging me to keep my eye on the donut, not the hole. From start to finish, Harvey never stopped teaching, even when transitioning from life. As I sat nearby into the late night, breathing every breath along with him, he was teaching. Harvey and I shared something so special, so delicate, so precious, that neither of us shared with anyone else. And maybe this is true of other families as well. Only we knew. For the first time in my life, I feel that I'm truly standing alone on my own 2 legs, but solid and pretty secure. I never would have made it here, never would have made it without my brother, without my teacher, Harvey. Deep bows of appreciation and love. And thank you all for being here.
cousin Larry. And I grew up right across the street from Harvey and Monty. Was very close to them, and I feel like a brother. It was kind of like the three brothers there. I feel very, very close to him. And it's interesting. I noticed that you're having this talk, this honoring of Harvey at Cal Poly, and then tomorrow we're having an honoring at his home with Barbara and the family. I thought that was interesting because I'm in both groups. I'm also a professor at the other Cal Poly. And in fact, it was Harvey that helped me become a professor at the other Cal Poly. In fact, I even mentioned this to Barbara yesterday, just the day that he was reading the Chronicle of Higher Education, and I was looking for a job. And he was saying, hey, there's one at the Cal Poly there. And so it's thanks to Harvey that I'm a colleague, too, at Cal Poly. And it's wonderful what the department is doing for him. And then I know he accomplished a lot. I don't have to repeat all the awards that he got. And in fact, he was also very humble. He wasn't proud and bragging about it. I remember reading his obituary that the department put out. It had all these awards that I never heard of. He didn't go bragging about them. He just kept getting these awards after awards. And he was head of the, speaking of awards, I think he was the head of the Department of Graphic Communications. It was about 30 years now, or less. I heard 20 with him when he was mentioned it. So he was the head of the Department of Communications for the record-winning time. And that occurred to me as I was thinking about that in our family, he was also the head of the cousins department. Harvey's job was to keep the cousins together and in touch with each other. He put up an internet, he put up a website for the cousins, the Marcus cousins. I like to think that for the graphic communications department, he used the internet, and for the cousins department, he used the Yenternet. and those of you who don't understand, ask a Jewish colleague what the Yenternet might refer to. And so he built this internet where all the cousins can get together and stay in touch with each other, interact with each other. But the ultimate thing that he created, using what he knew from graphic communications, was he designed the Cousins Quarterly. We had a professional journal in our family called Cousins Quarterly, and Harvey was the editor of that, and Monty and I helped. And then, again, Harvey always puts down Harvey, Larry, and Monty, but it was really Harvey doing the Cousins Quarterly. And we have our own little journal. In fact, I brought a couple of copies if anybody wants to see it when this talk is over, the Cousins Quarterly. And some of you cousins are on it. So that was wonderful. And then we wrote a book when our dear cousin Lenny died and had some essays that he didn't quite finish. We got together, Harvey, Larry, and Monty. But again, Harvey pretty much doing all the work and made this wonderful book about Dear Cousin Lenny, and there it is, a publication. We didn't get it published. We discussed that now that I'm thinking of it. But it's a beautiful book done by Harvey. And so his role, as was mentioned several times, was to help people do things, not get things done himself, but help people, other people do things and get things done for themselves. And there are many examples of that. And so he was helping all the cousins. And I can't say that I had anyone closer. He was like a brother to me. And as I was thinking through it, then I said, well, was he perfect in everything? And I said he attributed, even though he did the work and Monty and I helped, it was Harvey, Larry, and Monty. And we agreed on everything, but there was one thing that we didn't agree on. He said Harvey, Larry, and Monty, but the way he wrote it was Harvey, comma, Larry, comma, and Monty. And I said, no, that serial comma shouldn't be there after my name. It's Harvey, comma, Larry, and Monty. And even Fowler says that serial comma is redundant. So, other than his belief in the serial comma, I'd say, and he couldn't be a better friend, cousin, and colleague than Harvey Levenson. By the way, Harvey was the one that told me about a folding cane. Left around a big wooden stick. I could just fold this up, and it was Harvey that taught me how to do this.
I'm Gary Field. I have known Harvey since 1970, and I've worked with him at 3 different organizations, odd as that may sound. But it started in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I was over, and you might guess I'm an immigrant to this country, and that's true. And so I arrived in Pittsburgh for what was going to be a summer project at the Graphic Arts Technical Foundation. And Harvey was the second American I ever met right in the lobby there when I arrived. And I know the exact date because we had to keep logbooks and things like that. Anyway, soon after that, of course, was the 4th of July. And then I met Barbara and great friends of theirs, Bob and Linda. And I thought, hey, these Americans are pretty nice people. And 50-some years later, I'm still here, partly because of that. Very warm, generous, and then, of course, I worked with Harvey at this Graphic Arts Technical Foundation, which is an industry-supported research foundation, and it was a world leader in its field. And it's hard to describe. A lot of oddball people worked there because they didn't pay much money, but it was people there that were taken by the work. They loved the challenge of the research and the educating the industry and so forth. So it was people there that worked out of love more than I'm going to make my fortune here. There's none of that at all. But it was a friendly kind of place. And but it got to the point, though, when Harvey, I was in the research department and Harvey was in technical services. And they had him out on the road quite a bit, doing technical analysis of plants and helping them run better and so forth, and also presenting seminars to the industry. And I could see, I did a little of that, but I could see what a grind that kind of work would be over and over and over. So I think eventually at that point, Harvey said, well, my work is done here. And a mutual colleague of ours was teaching at a small liberal arts, used to be Catholic college. And they said, he said, you know, we need somebody here to help develop a professional track for this college. And it was run by the Community of Divine Providence, which a nun was head of the president, and she was a fantastic administrator too, I'll add. But Harvey said at that point, okay, I'm looking for a new challenge, and he went there. He had the ability to create something, and he created a professional track for graphics and design within that college. And there was something else, looking back over Harvey's life, that was also something that emerged at that time. And that was he believed very strongly in the development and encouragement of young people. The technical foundation, yeah, we had a job there, it was technical and so forth. But you could see how he nurtured students and helped them out, and that started a long tradition and tremendous heritage he has. And at this point, I'll make sort of a more personal comment. I knew both Mark and Damien right from the start. and they're both such fine young men. I'm proud to know them. And it's because of Harvey and Barbara and their guidance and love that really made them the fine people they are today. And I really, that was a personal observation. We used to spend Thanksgiving with them and so forth, and those two boys are just wonderful. But anyway, that was part of what Harvey's mission was. He was going to, launch himself into education. Now, one of the remarkable things about Harvey was his work ethic. It was something I've never seen before. It was just amazing. Here he was chair of this department at a small college, and he was also enrolled full-time in the PhD program at the University of Pittsburgh. Now, many of you here have PhDs, and you say, well, how did he do that? And Barbara obviously was a major help in getting him through that. But I know everyone looked at that and say, Harvey's just amazing. So that thing really struck me as a fundamental characteristic of Harvey. The other one was his great sense of humor. And he'd be telling these stories, and after a while I got to know, and I watched, oh, he's roping that guy in. And then, and then oh, no, right, there's a breakout. But he had that wonderful sense of humor, which was just remarkable. And I think everyone that knew him would say, oh, yeah, he got me on that one, and he told this story and so forth. Just wonderful. But anyway, he, as Larry was saying about Cal Poly, and he came out here sort of, I've heard about Cal Poly. I know a few people that work there in the department. And, but the dean at the time basically, I had correspondence with Harvey early in the year. He gave me the full story. He said, they made me an offer I couldn't refuse. So he came out here, and Cal Poly at the time had acting department heads, so in our department. And so they sort of stagnated. They said, well, we don't want to move that machine out. We don't want to do this. We want to get somebody who's going to be in here that will provide the leadership that whoever it was came in was going to give. And of course, they saw in Harvey with the academic background, the teaching, the technical understanding, the contacts in industry, and all that, they would have done anything. They would have almost made him, the associate dean if he wanted it, to get him here. And he came here, and that was one thing that the two radical changes that he implemented. One was the equipment in the department. They had old linotype machines there. Well, they were gone, and pretty soon we had computerized stuff there. He got a great working relationship with people up in Silicon Valley, Apple, Adobe, a number of others, and he set up an advisory board for the industry. I know many of you are here today, and that was amazing. He wanted to know what they could contribute, what their opinions were, and they were a great partnership, and it transformed that. Now, unfortunately for Harvey, he came here and he inherited a faculty that I think 8 of them were tenured full professors. And that meant, well, we do things our way here. But eventually, they came around, and one person in particular said, well, I see the new direction, and that's okay, but I'm retiring early. But over the years, he recruited some amazing people and implemented the vision that was out there. Now, the other thing that Harvey really emphasized, and this dates back to the president, Warren Baker of Cal Poly, and the provost, Tom Fort. They both believed very much that Cal Poly, well, Cal State in general, I think, was shifting its focus. So professional development and publishing in referee journals and that kind of thing, that was going to be a thing now. And Harvey was 100% behind that. He not only encouraged faculty and sponsored them, yeah, you want to go to that conference, you got a paper there to present, fine, well, let's do it. But he also encouraged the students. Now, there's one professional group in the graphic arts called the Technical Association of the Graphic Arts. And like engineering and architecture and others, they often have student chapters. Well, there wasn't one here, wasn't one anywhere, for this TAGA group. So Harvey formed that. He had already got them writing what they call working papers and publishing little journals of student papers and that kind of thing. He was encouraging scholarship in that regard. And he and I actually were on the board of the TAGA at the same time, and they bought into that. They said, oh, this is wonderful. And so the student chapter division started for the TAGA, and over the years, they compete for the best journal, and Cal Poly's won it, probably more than any other one university. And it was that kind of spirit that the Harvey infused in it, the enthusiasm. Whatever the students would want to make happen, he was 100% behind it. Now, the other thing, he was a great problem solver. And one of the problems at Cal Poly back then was that students were graduating without completing their senior project. And this wasn't only our department, there was a number of other departments. And of course, eventually you get somebody call in and say, oh, remember me, I was here 5 years ago, and I really didn't get my degree, and we try to make out some sort of problem, some sort of catch-up or whatever for that. But Harvey had a better idea, or a good idea that would solve the problem. He said, every student, before they take senior project, has to enroll in this class that he developed called Research Methods in Graphic Arts. And what the intent was, that it was a one-unit class. The intent was you completed that, and then you had your first 3 chapters, so when you went to your advisor, you were already rolling. And that made a tremendous difference, and I don't know how many, the numbers and such, but that, I suspect nowadays, very few people so-called graduate without actually having finished their degree requirements. He was always a great and passionate believer in qualifications and achieving those that recognition, and even back to the days he got an associate degree in New York City. Somebody said to him once, oh, you don't need to mention that as part of it. He said, no, I want that. That's important to me. And that was important to everyone he talked to. He wanted them to, the young people, he wanted them to get some sort of external recognition like that, or it's a mark of progress, really what it is. And he was very, very encouraging on that score. I just want to briefly close now. I could go on, as you may guess here. But I know my good friend Ken is waiting to speak, so, and I'll leave it with that. But by the way, I have received messages from students all over the world that say, oh, we were so fond of him. He was such a great guy. And, they're very, very sorry. So the tributes out there are far and wide, and he's so much loved and remembered. But just in closing, I'll make it a more personal thing. I believe there's an afterlife, and I believe that Harvey's up there somewhere taking notes of what's going on down here. And we lived when I lived in Pittsburgh, we lived on Fifth Avenue there. Harvey and Barbara were in the building next to mine, and we used to get together every so often, and Harvey is the one that really took me to the perfect Reuben sandwich that was down there. And whenever we get together here, we'd say, have you found a decent place out here in California that does a Reuben yet? And actually, I found a decent one in Madonna Inn, of all places. But Harvey's big thing, of course, was those who know him, and especially when we go to those TAGA meetings, was he'd get together people he knew and so on, other colleges, and said, well, let me organize a get-together dinner. And I said, oh, right, fine. Now, I knew exactly what he had in mind. Harvey would always choose a Chinese restaurant. And actually, when I told him about this Reuben sandwich, he didn't, he said, okay, we're going to drive, just tell me where to go. And I said, it's at the most unlikely place. He said, a Chinese restaurant? I said, oh, no. And then we came off the freeway, and I said, go straight ahead. Madonna Inn. Oh, yeah, right. So anyway, that was a great memory. But like I said, we lived on Fifth Avenue in Pittsburgh. And He just had so many wonderful times there. I had a long correspondence with him early in the year, and he said they were the best times. And you know, it was when the Steelers were winning Super Bowls too, so that was a nice thing on the top there. I think we converted a New Yorker to a Steeler fan, but of course he was deep down a Yankees fan for baseball. Yeah, that was him. But anyway, so Harvey, I know you're checking up on all this, and my friend, I'll see you one day on the avenue.
I guess I'm up. My name is Ken. Thanks for having me. Thank you. I'm a professor in the graphic communication department, and I have to tell you, I was hired by Harvey back in 2002. I started at the university in 2000 as an administrator and was eventually asked to come down and meet this guy at his office. And we sat there and had a long conversation. He says, you should apply in the pool to be a part-time lecturer and help us with these classes because you'd be perfect at it. And I said, I don't think, I don't know if I'm all that good. And he says, no, Ken, I can see right away you're perfect. You're exactly what we need in this department. And I thought, well, if you can do something with Bob Harris's life, maybe this will be good for me too. Thank you. I was sitting back for the whole time. I'm thinking, what am I going to? That is awesome. I just got to tell you something you didn't know about Harvey, and this might be something that I'm sure you don't know. He invented the text message. It was in the form of email. And I assumed that from Harvey at some point in time. I would ask you to go back and look in the database and actually count how many you've received. I did that from the last 12 years, and I had well over 28,000. I'm not kidding, and I can't go back for the past 12 years before that. So it's interesting if you knew, he would send an email and he expected you to respond right away. Now, Brian Lawler, I know that's difficult for you. I sent an email to you back 8 years ago and you still haven't responded. No, I know that. But if you didn't respond, there was hell to pay. And what do I mean by that? That meant that in the next 4 minutes, if you didn't respond in the 4 minutes, he had already generated 10 more emails that he CC'd you on with the story that he was working on. It was incredible, the amount of emails that he would send. When you would walk into his office, if any of you would know, in the office used to be in the old, is kind of where the tech for Tom for journalism sits now. Our office used to be in there, but his office he had his computer in the corner, and he would sit with his face to the corner. And when you would walk in, he had this chair that creaked. I don't know if any of you remember that chair, but it would go creak, 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 creak. And as soon as he walked in, he reminded me of the Wizard of Oz because he would sit there and just crank these emails out all day long. And you would walk in and you would be waiting for someone to say, pay no attention to the man in the corner cranking out all these emails, as he ultimately would. So I found myself as a part-time lecturer, a full-time lecturer, and then an assistant professor, constantly going into his office. His door was constantly open, and he would just say, break whatever he was doing, sending his 43 billion emails. Sit down, what's going on here? And I just remember all the counseling that I took, all the advice I asked from him, and all the wonderful things that he would say. So in 2008 to, heck, I don't know, 2011, 8, 9, 10, 11, it took me 7 years, working on my dissertation. I remember just locked and not being able to complete my dissertation. And I'm just sitting there thinking, I have got to do this. My wife has 3 attorneys on retainer. I've got to get through this now. And so I just walked in. Harvey, I was saddened and melancholy. And I said, I'm just having a tough time. Sit. What can I do for you? And I'll just remember, I can't get my dissertation. I'm here to ask you. You've done this. You've written one. You've written many. What do I got to do? What's the secret, Harvey? You got to help me out. And I just remember him, right, going to his computer, creak, 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 the chair went, and he just started clickety, click, clickety, clickety, click. And I'll just remember his face. He kind of got this smile, right? And then he gets up and walks into the copier room and comes back with this printed piece, and he hands it to me. And it was in Times New Roman, because that's everything that he ever wrote was in Times New Roman. And I'll never forget this. He hands it to me, and he has this smile, this confidence. He's looking at me like, this is it, right? And on the paper, it says, just write it. And I remember receiving it and looking at it, thankfully, and I just looked, and I just remember him. And this is the thing, it's just him looking at me. This is it. And I'm thinking, why couldn't he just given me like a clock in the shape of a heart on a chain? Maybe if he just told me to have courage, right? I just didn't understand it. And so I said to him, thank you, Harvey, I appreciate it. And I folded it up like this and put it in my pocket. And I remember walking down the hallway thinking, I'm nowhere farther ahead than I was when I started. What is this? And so there is an end to this story, by the way. And so I got into my office, I threw it onto the desk, and I just was like, I just don't get this, right? I would have taken the clock, you know, the shape of a heart. I think that, so that night I went home, and when I worked on my dissertation, I went up to my bedroom, and I had stacks of papers and books that I laid out on the floor, and I had her guard the door so that my kids wouldn't come in. And I would walk through all these things, and I'm just thinking, I gotta make sure I do this, I gotta make sure I do that. This has to be this way, I have to introduce this, I can't introduce this, and I just stopped and I thought, just write it. What does that mean? So I came in the next day, I had some time, and I'm looking at this blank, it wasn't blank, I mean I had my proposal done, but I had to sit there at this, and I just gotta work on it. All of a sudden I realized, it's not that it has to be perfect. It's not that I have to have it completely the greatest way as it is now. He's saying, just write it. And it was absolutely this epiphany that came over me. And I took that paper, and I photocopied it like 6 times. I still have one. I still have one in my office. And I took it back in the bedroom there I had, and every night I just put there, and I would just crank. I would crank out this thing. And it got to the point where I was able to get the thing completed. I submitted it and went through a successful defense, and life was good. And I never will forget, most importantly, his face, how confident he was. He was telling me he knew this. He had this down, and it was incredible. And so this day, I'm so honored to have had that time with him. Interesting thing, we used to go to Drupa, and if any of you know of, as a faculty member, when you went to Drupa, you didn't just go to Drupa and drink beer. You went to find a donation. And so you came back with a donation. If you didn't, that was a problem. And so I had been working in the binder area, and so I went and had a long conversation with the guys from Polar Cutter. And I had got this Polar Color donation just about ready to go. And I was excited. And I came back. Harvey, you get a minute? Yeah, let's sit down. Show me what's going on. I go, oh, this is great. And I talked to Larry, and we got this thing together. And he sits back, creak, and he just starts clickety. And I said, so anyway, I'm going to work on this email, Harvey, and I'm really excited. And he goes, it's done. And it was literally a week later, beep, 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 this Polar Cutter came in it. If anybody went to a conference and you had a Cal Poly badge, someone inevitably would come up and go, Cal Poly, yeah, graphic communication, yeah. Harvey Levenson? Yeah. And then there would be this wonderful story that would go on and on about how they, in fact, had made a donation to the department. I ran into James Martin, who worked for Heidelberg back in the day. I ran into him a couple months ago. And we started talking about Harvey Levenson. And he was like, oh, my God. He said that year that we were in the process of negotiating, putting in this Heidelberg printing press in, it was like a $1.8 million printing press. He said, my boss said, fine. He said, look, just send him one to make him shut up. His ability to get donation, he had no fear. And so the department, as we've all said today, was because of his fearlessness. He was able to go in and ask for this stuff, which is incredible. So let's go real quick, and I'll move on. We used to, as faculty, sit around in the conference room. We would have conversations about, hey, when do you think Harvey's going to retire? Right? I don't know. Do you think he's going to retire? And so one day, I don't know if it was Penny or someone asked, hey, Harvey, when are you going to retire? And we're like, first of all, I can't believe you asked that. And he said, I don't know, maybe in the next 20 years. And so we laughed, and then finally, in 2013, he comes out and says, hey, I'm going to retire. And so the department says, what do we do? What do we do? At the time, where's Penny? Penny was in line, and they said, Ken, what do you think? I said, yeah, throw my name in, but it'll be a couple of years. It's not my time. And then Penny said, you know what? I'm moving to Bali. And then I was left there having to put on Harvey's shoes. And whoever says to you that you can always fill somebody else's shoes, you cannot. He wore size 32, these clown shoes. And I could never even begin to fit into them. So I took over his chair. And that was an interesting time. There was this moment when he was working with Raymond Prince. There was a discussion about what was going to happen with this Wadowitz library and all these books. I was just coming in as the chair. Dean Epperson was just coming in as the dean. All these changes were taking place. And so he approached the Dean Epperson and said, hey, we want to get all these books and we want to bring them in and house them in graphic communication. And Dean Epperson kind of made this grin. Yeah, like that's going to happen. And then Harvey said, no, wait a minute, this is a big deal. And he said, okay, Harvey, if you can raise $150,000, then I'll think about it. It wasn't more than a day, and Harvey was there with this check for $150,000, and he presented it to Dean Epperson, and Dean Epperson went, humana, humana, humana. That's where Dean Epperson was able to actually see the talents that this man had. So interestingly, this all gets coordinated, and he says, okay, I'm out for a couple of weeks. Beep, beep, beep. For those of you who were here for there, 2 tractor trailer loads of material shows up. And inevitably, we had to try to find a place to put it. And there was 1 billion emails that went on with that whole transition. From it, which was a wonderful thing, as we became friends with Raymond Prince, these materials were inevitably priceless. It was wonderful for us to have them. We spent a lot of blood, sweat, and tears in moving them. Most importantly, Gary. Where's Gary? Thank you, Gary. Thank you for all that you have done with these books during that time when I was trying to figure out how do I walk around in the hallway with these shoes. Very difficult thing to do. There was also, and I'll be done. There was also, if any of you know about the Gutenberg Gate, I decided in my best interest to host a conference. It was the IC, which is an international circle of graphic communication institutes, and our Graphic Communication Education Association. I decided, let's host a conference at Cal Poly. Yeah, let's do that. Boy, it's funny when you think about these in retrospect. But he sends this email to me. He says, Ken, wouldn't it be great if we were to get the Huntington Library's edition of the Gutenberg Bible displayed here for that conference? Thank you, Linda, for laughing. And I said, Harvey, I don't think you would. I mean, you just, literally in 3 hours, he had crafted a letter to the executive director of the Huntington, to Jeffrey Armstrong, and 18,000 other people, saying, we're going to get, and I'm going to tell you, there was another 100,000 emails that followed. Now, I looked at that at first and thought, this is just ridiculous. But then what I admired is his passion. I mean, he had so much passion behind this that I couldn't argue with it. It was incredible. The library didn't think so. But I just thought it was incredible. We were not able to pull that off. But that's what I admired the most about this man, is that he took no. He never took no for an answer. There was always the ability to get in, and he'll do whatever you're going to do. As the chair, I tried to emulate that. And I tried to send the amount of emails that he sent out too. I couldn't do it. I had we had a moratorium on emails. They couldn't be sent on the weekends or in the evenings because that was a difficult transition. I just want you to know, look, I'm privileged and honored to have known this man. I wasn't going to do this. Look, to have served him, to have learned from him, to have laughed with him, to have been counseled by him, and to have been guided by him was an extreme honor. I wasn't going to do this. This man did so much for his community and contributed so much to better the human condition. He saw the best in everyone, and he accomplished more in his lifetime than I could in 10 of mine. I hope so much. He was a Yankee fan. He was a Steeler fan. I'm from Pittsburgh as well. He was an RIT fan. He loved his family. He loved his students. He loved his job. He loved GRC. He loved the CLA. And he loved Cal Poly. He was my father. He was my uncle. He was my brother. He was my cousin. He was my professor. He was my mentor. He was my muse. And most importantly, he was my friend. And to say the same thing as Gary, I think of him sitting in a room above a Chinese restaurant in Brooklyn. He's got several monitors on the wall, several big computers, multiple keyboards. He has his Yankee Stadium chair sitting there and a basket of fresh bagels, because that was the thing that he wanted. And I see him frantically trying to send to everyone in this room, to all the people whose lives he's touched, an email to explain his absence. And then I like to think he stops and pauses. I like to see him look around and reflect upon all of these things he's accomplished in his remarkable life. And I like to see him sit and relax and with great relief and satisfaction and pride and peace. And that he doesn't have to write these emails. He's already written it. His life, a legacy of a great, accomplished, and miraculous life, something that he just wrote. And so, for those of you of the Jewish community, I hope you'll respect me by saying Mazel Tov. Congratulations, Harvey, for the life that you've lived, and thank you for allowing me to be part of it.
Ken, that was pretty amazing. In closing, I think it's a perfect follow-up to all the stories, especially the stories of Harvey's ability to give so much to the department in the means of donations and encouraging others to do so. Eric, can you put the dedication slide up? Harvey loved to do dedications. Ken mentioned the beep, 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 and equipment would come into the department, and all of a sudden students had another learn by doing opportunity with equipment and technology and software that was relevant and kept them ahead and made them very important and credible when they graduated. And when these softwares and hardwares and all these things came into the department, it was a very big, fancy deal for Harvey. It was very important for him to honor those folks who were giving to our department to allow our students to raise. And so we would like to propose a dedication to Harvey. Okay, do you see a picture of a building? Okay, good. I may have technical issues. So there are a couple words that come to mind. Well, there are thousands of words that come to mind when we think of Harvey Levenson, but two that really come to mind as it relates to his ability to bring things to the graphic communication department to allow our students to succeed are innovation and excellence. We had a board meeting today, and so you're going to hear a little bit of a repeat of this story, but in 2003, Harvey mastered the engineering of this building, the printing press building, known as 26A. How many alum have spent nights printing the newspaper in 100-degree heat at the high levels? Yes, we were the only program that could print a daily publication, the Mustang News, in the country, in the world probably. And this building, because of his innovative and his focus on excellence in curriculum, was built. We put the newspaper press in it, and students printed with the partnership with journalism, who wrote the copy. We made the printing plates, and they printed every single night. And then time goes on, and innovation and excellence continue to happen. In 2011, with Harvey's help, he negotiated with Dow Jones and many, many other companies an improvement to the lab, 2 extra colors. So now we can print in what? And what are they? CMYK, of course, yes. And the person you see holding that honor is Paul Cousineau, who is a grad of our program, had a great career at Dow, and gave back to the department. So working with Dow Jones to facilitate these extra colors of the press, and then inserting and all these elements where soup to nuts, copy all the way through to a folded paper getting delivered, was done by our students, learned by doing. And this was Harvey's thing, this plaque that was in Paul's hands, honoring those who were giving to the department. And so this was named the Dow Jones Innovation Lab for publication. We still have the signage. And so now the Mustang Daily could be printed in color. We could print other types of periodicals. But then as time started to go on, readership of the physical paper declined. And so innovation had to happen again. And in this case, what do we do when the content is being digested digitally? We pivot. And so with Mary Glick, the chair of journalism, and Brady, the current chair of journalism, Brady Teufel, worked with Ken Macro, the monumental task of removing the newspaper press, but in an innovative manner. We outsourced the paper to Casey Printing, Ryan Casey, who's an alum, right, keeping it in the family. And we decided that innovation and excellence would continue in this building, aptly named the Printing Press Building. So in 2018, we moved our specialty printing, our packaging, our prototyping equipment in a true makerspace, learn by doing environment, and our students loved it. Once housed in a very confined space, now we have an entire building for students really to explore fun, hands-on activities, innovation and excellence. And so today, we had a dedication. At Cal Poly, it's very difficult to rename buildings. And I know this because I asked the dean, Kate Murphy, hey, what do you think about renaming this building? Because in a brainstorm session with Brock, our advisory board member, and Jules and our faculty, we all decided this is the best way we think we can honor Harvey. But then the more we thought about it is, the Printing Press Building is the perfect name for this building. We don't want to rename this building, but what we want to do is dedicate the space to Harvey and all the amazingness that he has created to create graduates who go on and change the industry and then keep giving back. And so, as you can see, we have our new crop of students who don't know who Harvey is, but now do. We've dedicated the space to Harvey R. Levenson, the Innovation Lab for Graphic Communication Excellence, which matches the endowment that was created when he retired, the Harvey R. Levenson Graphic Communication Excellence Endowment. And in very Harvey-esque fashion, we have a plaque. Mark, would you be willing? So this beautiful plaque is a beautiful dedication by the words of his granddaughter, Vanessa. Is she here? Oh my gosh. So we may or may not have stalked you on Insta and found this quote and begged for permission from Mark to use it because we feel it's the perfect description of Harvey. And if you don't mind, Mark, do you mind turning it so I can read it? This is very Harvey. In memory of Dr. Harvey R. Levenson, Department Head of Graphic Communication, 1983 to 2013, if you learn something, share it. If you care about someone, show up. And when in doubt, ask more questions, not fewer. It's how you understand people and they feel understood. Those are such beautiful words, and thank you so much. So we're honored as a department to dedicate this space to Harvey so that every student who comes through our program knows how amazing he was, the impact he had, and of course, in Harvey fashion, a plaque on the wall. Thank you. And before we close, I'll just, I don't know, personally, Harvey has dedicated so many spaces in our building, Building 26 and the printing press building 26A. And what's great about it is listening to the students interact, because the students spend so much time in our building, 3-hour labs, multiple labs a day. And so, for instance, if they're going to produce their magazine that's beautifully color managed, duplex trimmed, and with a perfect bound cover, where do they go? They go to the KM room, right? And if they are producing their Flexo pressure-sensitive labels, we don't call them stickers, they're pressure-sensitive labels, and they need to output their Flexo plates, where do we go? We go to the ESCO lab. And even with the Raymond J. Brent's graphic arts collection that Ken beautifully described with all those books, it just went through a beautiful renovation, and it's so beautiful. Oh, yeah, you need to come look at it. Our students refer to that as the Ray Ray room. And it's a term of endearment because the information about Raymond J. Prince is all over the interior of the library. And so it's our hope that when students, the UGS managers, meet with their interns and they say, where should we meet tonight? Well, let's meet at the Harvey building, right? Hey, where's our packaging lab going to be where we're gonna prototype that new box? Oh, it's over at the Harvey building. Let's go meet there. A permanent memorial to an amazing educator and mentor. I don't know what else to say, so I'll stop saying things, but I just want to thank everyone for being here. Barbara, we're so sorry for your loss, but we're so thankful that we had Harvey for as long as we did. And this ends our live stream. Thank you all virtually who tuned in, and we have time, and this is what Harvey would love the most, I believe, is let's just connect. Share stories about how you knew Harvey, meet the people to your right, to your left. We have food, we have beverages, and connect. Thank you.